Welcome to the Monday Night Call. Today we have the incredible Bronwyn Griffith speaking. She is a master of many, many trades, trained as a registered nurse and worked in critical care and did a lot of rural and remote nursing, wrote a couple of textbooks. They're still in use. She is the epitome of healing and all things spiritual. And at 63, started her Juice Plus business and has absolutely rocked it. And that's not her only business. She's got lots of other businesses too. So she is going to share from all of those spaces tonight and tell us about some of her trials and tribulations as well, because this woman has done incredible things. And if I can do half the stuff that she's done at age 63, I will be very, very happy with my life. So take it away, Bron. Let's start with your story and then we'll come back to some questions later on.
Certainly. Hi, everybody. How are you going? I hope you're all really well. I'm in my active wear, just back from a dance class or a bar fitness class. But what I thought I'd do, first thing I want to say is put down your pens, have a cup of tea. This is not a training session. This is, I'm a great raconteur. I'm a great theatrical person. This is just going to be stories. Within those stories or embedded in those stories, really they're going to be stories of my life, there will be some learnings, and I will gladly answer questions or whatever, probably at the end. But really, I haven't, Elizabeth cranked me up fairly hard then. I've certainly done a lot of stuff. I've got a lot of master's certificates, but I wouldn't say I've ever really mastered anything other than aging disgracefully, and that's my plan to continue doing that. My dad is now 95. So he is my role model. He's failing a bit now, but, he's just recently, he's had a girlfriend who lives in Holland and he goes over there once a year and she comes over to Australia. But sadly, this year they think it's the last time because they're both getting a bit old to travel. But how sad is that? But anyway, he's my role model. He still rides a bike, he hikes, he does stuff like that, but he's failing a little bit. But anyway, what I thought I'd do is firstly tell you a story of two girls and how these two girls merged to eventually become the woman that I am. I hope I can get through some of these stories because some of them are fairly vulnerable. And then after that, I'm going to tell you a little bit about why I do adventure travel. And if I can be technical enough, I'll pop some pictures rather than looking at my face for 40 minutes, which is a bit of a pain in the ass. And I'll pop some pictures in as well. So does that work for all of you? Cool. Okay. So what we suggested, or Elizabeth and I sort of came up with, is the title really is, it's never too late to reinvent yourself. It's never too late to restart your life. And I think I'm probably living proof of that. So I'll tell you the story of a little girl who was born in 1954 in Victoria, in metropolitan Victoria. Her dad was a doctor and her mum was a secretary. And she had a really nice childhood. She grew up playing down the creek and going to school. Nothing was really a problem for her. Academically, she was, was fine at school. A little bit overweight, but not really a problem. Played netball, went swimming up the pool, down to the beach, stay with her grandma at the beach in summer. All those things that kids used to do in the 60s. And life was easy. It was interesting growing up in the 60s with relation to food, for example. We had a massive veggie garden out the back of our suburban home. We had our own fruit trees. We used to walk to school. I don't think my mum even learnt to drive until I was in high school. My family had an unusual experience. We went and lived in the States when I was 10. We lived in Dallas just after President Kennedy was shot. My dad did a swap with one of the doctors over there. So we lived in Texas at a time which was so unusual. People didn't pack up and travel in those days. And when we got to Texas, it was such a shock. People had coloured television. We didn't even have black and white telly where I lived, but they had coloured television. They had freeways and all those things that we look at now, supermarkets, things like that. We had nothing like that in Australia. It was a massive, massive gap then. And it was actually so unusual that when we got back, my mum used to do talks at various mothers' clubs, about my life in America. It was so different from what it was like. Anyway, this little girl went on to private school, secondary school. Again, didn't have any huge problems at school, ended up being school captain. And then went on and, nurse, and then eventually married a farmer, moved to the country. I had 3 beautiful children and, well, not lived happily ever after and she hasn't died, but, you know, life was always easy, you know, never huge battles with money, never huge battles with anything. So this little girl had a lovely life. There was another little girl born at the same time to the same family, but her father was so busy being a successful father that she hardly ever saw him. He never went to any of her sporting events. He never went to the time when she was announced as school captain. He never went to her end of the year concerts because he was always at work building his empire, if you like. And this little girl really actually became, and he also, when he got home, he was so tired, he was actually quite violent. So she learned very early to be very quiet, to go and hide in her room and not come out and not socialise with people. And that eventually meant not socialise or not be very, very comfortable with men at all. When she went off to high school, like I said, life was easy, but she was fat. So her father used to hold her up in ridicule in front of her other friends and say, don't you wish you looked like so-and-so? You know, you're too fat. She had a bit of trouble actually at school because she was, I'm not talking grossly overweight, but a bit overweight, but was always made to feel less than pretty, less than acceptable because of her weight. And even to become school captain was quite confronting for her because she just didn't have that confidence to do that role. She didn't perceive herself as being worthy of that role. And even though she achieved it quite well, it was difficult for her. So go on to nursing. That was okay. Loved emergency nursing. Also worked in television, which was amazing. And then married a farmer. Freud would have had a field day with this because the father was very similar. The farmer was very similar to the father. He was incredibly narcissistic, incredibly controlling, continually telling her how dysfunctional she was and how she couldn't do this and couldn't do that. So really, this girl, by the age of about 45, had totally lost any confidence in herself whatsoever. Interestingly, at work, she was, by that stage, running a hospital, a rural hospital, and then later went on to industry and was the national injury manager for Heinz foods, as in baked beans and spaghetti and baby food. So very high functioning at work. Often used to have to travel around with work, and her mum used to look after the kids because, you know, the husband was too busy farming. But got home and totally changed, total personality change, did what she was told, kept quiet, meals on the table, just did everything because it was safer than having an opinion or speaking up or doing anything which was out of line. Because if you did something out of line, there was either emotional abuse and gaslighting or occasional physical abuse. So when her youngest daughter was in year 11, on the 27th of January, she sat with her family, two of her kids, her husband, at dinner on the Sunday dinner that night and said, I don't think I can do this marriage any longer, but I can't find anywhere else to live. So I'm not going to create any trouble. However, we've got the last year when Ree's at school. Once she's finished school, if things aren't better, I'm leaving. She got a fairly crack in the face for that, but that was okay. So the end of that year, there was no changes. There were some changes for a couple of months, but everything went back just to normal. So there weren't any changes. So Rihanna passed HSC and Bron left the family home. And that's when I started my life. I realised about 10 years before that I didn't know who I was. I had totally lost myself. I didn't know who I was. I hadn't been allowed to even explore who I was. However, there was things starting to, little seeds starting to sprout in my mind. I used to get up really early and walk. It's probably when I started my morning rituals then, because I could be alone and I could actually be alone with myself. I discovered Abraham Hicks and the law of attraction, and all of a sudden these little seeds started to grow, and I thought, I can reinvent myself. I can stand on my own. I can leave this marriage if that's what it takes. So I went to see a counsellor when I was 59, and she said, next year is a significant birthday for you. Where do you see yourself? I couldn't tell her where I saw myself, but I could tell her exactly where I didn't want to be, and I didn't want to be in that farm, and I didn't want to be that farmer's wife. I didn't want have anything to do with that life. And I expected her to say, well, you know, let's have some meetings and do some counselling and pull you back together. She said, okay, let's devise a plan to get out. She said, you cannot live like this any longer. Even when I moved out, I moved out under an intervention order with a police escort. So it was hideous. It was seriously, seriously hideous. But I don't tell you this to make you feel sorry for me, because don't. It's the best thing, you know, out of what doesn't kill you makes you stronger is one of the things I love to say. But it's actually one of the best things I did was to confront my demons and also to confront myself and say, where is that woman? That woman, where is the school captain? Where's the student nurse that met Prince Charles representing the student, you know, the nurses of Victoria? Where's she gone? Where has she gone? How can she function at work so well and run multi-million-dollar businesses at work, and she can't say anything at home? Where is her voice? So that's been my mission for the last 5 years, I guess, to find who I am, to find my voice, and to have the courage to use it. And there's been some adventures along the way. I've had some interesting times in travel. I've had some interesting times with men as I've learned to say what I want and what I need and what it is and who it is that I am. And the biggest probably adventure and the biggest challenge of myself is who am I? Who am I in this thing? And I think I'm still reinventing or restarting myself over and over again. Does this make sense to you all? Is this interesting to you, or is it just a rambling of an old woman? Thanks, Pen. Thank you. So, and it's what has probably led me to starting my own business. Thanks, Peter. It's what led me to start my own business. It's what led me to NLP. It's what has given me the courage even to do my spiritual work, you know, to sit down with a pack of cards and do a reading for you, to channel through light codes, to do whatever it is. It's because now I've got the confidence to do it. Whereas 10 years ago, I just couldn't do that. I just didn't have the confidence to do anything. Strangely, like I said, I could do anything at work, anything, because that was work. But as soon as I got home, I was too scared to barely breathe sometimes. It gives me such an idea of what some women must go through, you know, even to my life, even though it wasn't pleasant, and in telling it, you can tell that it isn't. Day by day by day by day, I was just doing it. It was just my life. And even though I wasn't particularly probably happy, I wasn't miserable. I didn't even regard myself as abused until I left and then looked back on it. You know, you can always find a worse story. And I guess that was part of my upbringing, is to always look at what you've got, not what you haven't got. You know, always look on the sunny side. All that sort of stuff was how I was brought up. So even in the midst of incredibly difficult times, I could always look out the door and think there's people out here much worse than I am. So I guess it was that got me through 27 years of a difficult marriage. But certainly what keeps me going now is always that philosophy that I can do this. There is always a really bright side to every story. There's always something positive. You can always find a positive in it. But it's also given me a great empathy with a lot of people, especially a lot of women who are abused, I suppose. So now I'll tell you some travel stories if you'd like to hear them, because the thing that I have really, really come into my own is when I travel. So I don't think there's anyone here that I can see that actually doesn't know me or don't know what I have done. But what I have done is, and some of the things that I've learned is a couple of years ago, my brother, I'm really fortunate, my brother is a marketing manager for Intrepid, New Zealand. So I get these bag and family discounts. So I just go traveling like some of you go to Queensland or whatever, you know, I go to India. So when I first left my marriage, I had a call from a girl that I went to school with. I know I'm a really lucky bunny. Even if I go visiting, I go to the South Island of New Zealand. It's nice. So I had a call from my friend Jude to go, oh, we're going to India in 6 weeks. Do you want to come? And I went, I've got no money. I was, I think, couch surfing at the time because I didn't really have anywhere to live. I'm like, yeah, I'll be there. This friend of mine, when we were in year 11, had made a pact to go and see the Taj Mahal. And at 60, we finally did it, and it was absolutely awesome. So I spent 3 months after I left my marriage traveling around India. Some of the time was with Intrepid, and some of the time was with a pack on my back, really not knowing what I was doing or where I was, but it was one of those experiences where India is such an amazing country. If you've never been there, it's dirty. It's so busy. You've got no idea what Delhi's like. To even try and cross the road is just to take a big deep breath, to across and just go. It is so crowded, but it's so beautiful. It's a beautiful, beautiful country with beautiful, amazing people, with a philosophy that I really embraced. The philosophy of the meaning of life, if you like, and living a good life and what that means. And the people that live a good life, even in the most abject poverty. I remember traveling on a train from Delhi to Agra, where the Taj is, and it was early morning. We got on the train about 5. It was sunrise, and going past this absolute shanty town. I don't know if any of you have ever read Shantaram, but these shanty towns are about the size of a city block, and they're literally just canvas at best, strung over poles with tiny, tiny little alleyways, and people live on, like about 2 meters inside these shanties. They're pretty much run by the drug lords or whatever, but we were going past this shanty town, and there's all these men, this is a bit rude, squatting by the end of the tracks. And I said to someone, what do they do? I went, oh, they're all having their morning shit, if you like. I thought, what are these people doing? But it's such a leveling experience to think, this is these people's existence. I'm privileged enough to be sitting on a train going to see the Taj Mahal, and these people are having to take a shit by the railway line because that's their life. But they still have this respect. They wouldn't do it, within the shanty. They go outside. They have respect for their 1 metre of ground that they live on, and it's immaculately clean. And they're very, very proud of it. And the stories in India, their respect for their culture, their respect for their heritage is amazing. A couple of years after that, I cycled from Ho Chi Minh City, from Saigon up to Bangkok. And the things I learned there, we stayed with families. We homestayed with families. I remember meeting a lady in Cambodia, and her job was making brooms, a little bit like those straw brooms, the ones that are sort of fanned out. She made about 70 of them a day and was paid about $1 for each broom, I think, if that. And that's how she looked after her elderly parents and her 5 children and her husband. And she was so proud of her house. She was so proud to welcome us into her home. They always feed you. People in Asia will always feed you, no matter what you've got and they've got, they will always feed you. And they're so honoured and so humbled to have you in their house. I've also spent some time with Buddhists. I think I said in my intro that I'm a Buddhist. With the Buddhist, I can't say with the monks because they're male, but spent some time in their temples and have spent some time with female monks. And very much am into the Dharma or the way. And again, it just comes back to that philosophy of what you put out. And if you put it out heart-centered with love, is the way that they live. And it's an amazing experience. So my last thing I want to talk about is hiking Nepal and hiking to Everest, which was my challenge that I did last year, like Liz said, when I was 63. My aim to hike Everest has been it's been my life goal since I was 27. It was the first time my brother asked me if I wanted to go to Everest. He was going to devise some new tracks up to base camp or something, and could I go? And I was quite serious about going, and then I got pregnant with my first daughter, Erin, so I couldn't go. A couple of other times between then and about when I turned 40, he asked me and I couldn't go. My husband was controlling, like I said, but he never said I couldn't. He'd just say things, well, who's going to look after the children? And who's going to look after your mother? And I can't, I'm working. So, of course you can go, but the kids will just have to come home and, cook my dinner or whatever it is. So clearly, no matter what he said, I couldn't go. So when I was turning 40, my brother said, look, we're going again. We're definitely going this time. He and his wife were going up to base camp. Would I like to go? Yes. And I got pregnant with Hannah. I think there's some connection between travelling to Everest and becoming pregnant. So year before last, a friend of mine, not my brother, said that she thought she'd do base camp. I'm just looking for some photos. And did I want to go? And I said, that was about November, not last year, the year before. And I said I would love to, and committed to that then. So the learnings from this story is really the learnings for your business. The first thing I had to think about was what I needed to get there. What do I need to do to actually get a 63-year-old, relatively fit body up Everest? How do I train for altitude? How do I train to hike mountains? If any of you have been to Bendigo, it's flat. It's just flat. We don't have mountains. How do I train? What do I have to do? So what I did, and it's the same in the world of business, any business, whether you're setting up a Juice Plus business, whether you're running Heinz, you know, whatever it is, it's the same thing. What do I do to get this job done properly? So in this case, I booked in with a PT. Like I said, I was relatively fit, but I was sort of dance fit and cycle fit, but not mountaineering fit. So I booked in with a PT, and I used to have a session with her once a week, plus 2 other sessions that I'd do in the gym without her. I dropped pretty much all my other dance classes, did a lot of cycling for the sake of my leg muscles. But I used to go into the gym in my walking boots, and I would get 10 or 15 kilo weights and put them in my backpack and get onto the walking machine and put it up and simulate mountains. And all these really cool girls in the Lycra and the footy club boys were sort of looking at me, who is this old woman? What the fuck is she doing? But luckily the gym got behind me, and they actually put on, you know, they used to have a slideshow thing, you know, motivational thing in the training in the weights room, and they actually put a picture up of me and what I was training for. So with the gym like to start encouraging me, and they were wonderful. They were really, really supportive. So one thing really important is figure out what it is that you need when you're starting your business or when you're going to do something like this, but also get the support of people behind you that are really encouraging and really supportive, as you all are with all that, you know, when we all do anything, everybody just gets in and cheers, and it's fabulous. It's fabulous. So the next thing was equipment, and it's not this, no, again, similar to business. What equipment did I need? I need hiking boots. I needed a hiking pack. I had no thermal gear. I had no hiking gear, nothing. The difficult thing about Everest, when you look it up, is, you know, Google, you know how we all Google, what do I need to try to hike in Everest? No answer. What's the weather like when you hike to base camp? No answer. There's no information. There's lots of stories, but there's no information because it's so unpredictable. So really you need to start looking around for people that have done it before, the people that have, you know, blazed the way before you, if you like. Similarly, what's that word? Teachable. You have to be teachable, and you have to be curious, and you have to be willing to learn. So I found a few people in my local area that had done some hiking. Some had gone to at least to altitude. I did what I could to train for altitude, but you just can't do that in Bendigo. Maybe in Sydney or Melbourne, but certainly in Bendigo you just can't. So I just did whatever I could. I used to hike probably fortnightly up Mount Macedon, which is the closest mountain, which is only about 1,000 metres. Everest 5,800. And that was all I did. Anyway, and then all of a sudden my daughter decides she wants to come with me. At that stage she's 21 and she wants to come with me. So did my oldest daughter, but Erin, my oldest daughter, never really got the money together, but Rihanna was determined to go, and she got the money together. So we she did the bookings to get us there by the flights. Intrepid did the rest. So we took off a couple of days in Kathmandu, and then with the group, we met the group, and then we flew to Lukla. Lukla is the smallest airstrip in the world. It's 50 metres. That's what it looks like. It goes straight into the side of a mountain. So if those pilots muck up their landing, you're straight into the mountain. I'm just looking for some more photos. So it is a hair-raising flight. It's a tiny wee plane of about 16 people on it, and I've totally lost my photos. And yeah, literally flying and landing onto a strip of 50 metres, incredibly confronting. You get out of the plane, and I think the altitude at Lukla is about 2,800. So you don't really notice anything there. So we get out, have the usual meeting and start walking to our first place. So everybody's incredibly enthusiastic at that stage. There was 13 of us, fairly well trained. There was one guy who was very, very overweight, and another couple of people about my age, and the rest were in their late 20s. Rihanna, my daughter, was the youngest, and I was the oldest. But everyone's, you know, really enthusiastic, and we're really clean. All our clothes are clean. None of us smell. Ready to go. Really excited, and off we go at a cracking pace, and everybody's keeping up. The team, when you trek up to base camp, you have one team leader and 3 guides, and then 6 porters. So daily you carry the stuff that you need for the day, but your porters carry your other 10 kilos strict limit of everything you're going to need for 13 days. The porters carry that and they meet you wherever it is, whichever tea house you're staying in that night. So each day we're carrying a raincoat and a snow coat and sunglasses and sunscreen. And this is when the lack of information in Google became incredibly clear. Because 1 minute it's 20 degrees and you're getting sunburn, the next minute it's snowing. And it's literally the weather changes like that. As we went on and on, we stayed at Natchi Bazaar, which is where we had 2 days to totally acclimatise. Natchi Bazaar is about 3,200 metres, and it's when your breathing starts to get affected by the altitude. It's a little bit like, if you could imagine, breathing underwater with a straw, or breathing, sorry, in air with a straw. You just can't take that big deep breath in, or you can, but the air doesn't serve you. Of course it doesn't serve you, because, I'm just looking for some photos, because it, by that stage the oxygen's reduced by 80% of what we're used to. Gone down about 20%. So we trained each day while you acclimatise. They force you to walk up hills. They force you to get up early in the morning, and they force you, I've gone into Morocco, force you to walk and be very active. And it's that's how you actually acclimatise. The food in Nepal is fairly basic. Their normal meals are momos, which are like little dumplings. I couldn't eat them because I don't eat gluten. A lot of eggs, a lot of cheese, a lot of chips, fried food and spaghetti. It's really bizarre diet in Nepal. But anyway, that's the food. And you stay in tea houses, which are originally designed just for people, travellers having cups of tea. They're free to stay there, but it's expected that you will buy your meals there. So the tea houses are very basic. There's one room in the middle of the tea house, which has got the fire, and you sit around there playing cards or doing whatever. There's often no internet. Some people pay for it, but usually most of us didn't have any internet. So you're really reduced to doing things like I used to do in my childhood, which was playing cards and playing celebrity heb and stuff like that. That area is warm. When you go into the bedroom or the toilet, for want of a better word, because it's usually a drop in the ground, it's freezing. These places are made of balsa wood. I'm not joking, because you see the Sherpas carrying them up on their back. There's no insulation, there's nothing. They're freezing. And once you leave Natchi Bazaar, there's no shower either. So for the next 10 days, we're confronted by being incredibly cold, by, damn, I can't find any of my photos of Everest. I had them all here before, now I can't find them. Incredibly cold and a limited diet. So anyway, off we go. And the trek is for the next 10 days with no showers. So as we can increase and increase and increase and getting higher and higher at altitude, some of everyone was affected by it, but some of us, especially me, was incredibly affected by the altitude. So not only was I having trouble breathing and walking and feeling absolute fatigue, I couldn't eat and I couldn't sleep. So by the stage I got to close to base camp, I'd had 8 days of diarrhea. I had Giardia and 4 other parasites I found out when I got home. But I couldn't eat and I couldn't sleep. So I was running on about 2 hours sleep a night and about 2 teaspoons of rice a day. And I was just absolutely exhausted. This is one I wanted to hit you with a photo of Mount Everest, and I can't bloody find it. I had it here before and I can't find it. Anyway, no matter. So I made it to base camp. And I think the story in that is how you push and push and push and push and push yourself to achieve your goal. And I did, pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed myself to achieve that goal. But once you achieve the goal, I ran out of steam. But I still had to get back from Everest and then back down the mountain. And I totally ran out of steam. And I think if you think of some things in your life, whether it's passing your exams, doing your NLP course, you push and push and push and push to get to that goal. But once you get to that goal, then what? And even if you think about, leading up to your wedding, for example, and everything, you're so busy trying to get everything done. But once you actually have the wedding and it's amazing, and often a honeymoon, and then you slump. So it's not unusual. And I think I've found in my life in business, that's not unusual to push and push and push to achieve a goal, and then you slump. So one thing I learned from Everest, and certainly one thing I've learned throughout my life, is to not put all my apples into one basket, to not concentrate only on that one thing, because what if it doesn't work? So certainly consistency. Keep working away at that goal, keep working away at that goal, keep working away at that goal. But always make sure your life is running as well. Because if all you've got is the goal, once you achieve it, then what's left? So something that's a analogy I use a lot when I run my getting fit programs, if you like. You know, don't tell me you need to lose 15 kilos to get into your wedding dress. Don't tell me you want to lose 15 kilos by Christmas. Because once you get into the wedding dress, or once you get to Christmas, then what? What happens after that? You've already done it. And often with people, they will often put on weight after that, because they haven't had that underlying rest of their life running in parallel with that. They've just been focused on that goal, but once they've achieved that goal, there's nothing left, so they slide back into their old habits. I'm sorry, I can find pictures of every other place under the sun other than the ones I'm looking for. Anyway, can't be helped. I don't know where they've gone. No matter. So Everest. So what happened? I reached base camp, got back 2 hours later into the tea house. I was completely cyanosed. My lips were blue. My nails were blue. I had, for those nurses here, oxygen saturation of 72, which was fairly. There it is. Thank you. Thanks, Elizabeth. That's Everest in the background. Thank you. There's lots on my Facebook page, but I don't know why I can't get them to come up. Anyway. So started walking the next day. It took me 4 hours to get to the next stop where everyone else had got to there by morning tea. It was sort of it was minus 15 when we set off in the morning. It was freezing. I seriously had no energy. So I had a chat to the team leader at Tangoche, which was the next place that we got to. No, it wasn't Lavache. And I said, what do you reckon? And he said, what do you think? I said, I think you need to evacuate me. I said, at the moment, I'm so wobbly, and I was seriously wobbly. We're in a little town. No, we're in a little settlement, but at least it had a helicopter pad, which was a circle drawn on the ground. Believe me, there's nothing fancy about this place. And I said, I think it's safer to evacuate me here than have me fall on some goat track and then have to do a rescue mission. So I actually got evacuated back down to Natchi Bazaar while my group walked, and then I walked the last 3 days after that. So what was the learning from that? I was incredibly disappointed, so disappointed, because I really wanted to go to the monastery at Tambache. Couldn't do it. However, what's the lesson in that? It's the same lesson as when you're in labour and you've got your birth plan and it doesn't work. It's the same lesson as when you decided you want to get to SC by game plan. That was my plan. Don't think I'm going to make it. Constantly review where you're up to, review how you're managing. Are you managing? Is this plan working for you? Is it not? Are you, in my case, well enough to walk for another 4 days, or do you need to have to look at an alternative plan, an alternative way to get there? So the lessons that I really learned just from hiking Everest, I can apply to every situation in my life. And that's really another part of my life and another way that I reinvented myself. And it's usually by challenging myself, and usually by pushing myself much harder than I ever want to push myself, or wherever, to places that I'm not comfortable. So I firmly believe, in my case especially, but I think in most people, if you have a look at your boundaries, if you have a look at things that you want to achieve, set yourself a plan, do your training, whatever it is, check your equipment. But even when you're actually doing it, keep your eye on the prize, keep your eye on the goal, but also make sure everything about your life is sitting in balance at the same time. Because if the basics of life, in my case, sleeping and eating, aren't working, it's very, very hard to achieve your goal. So that's pretty much all I wanted to say. That was about 40 minutes. Spot on, Elizabeth. So has anyone got any questions? Has anybody got any comments? Has anybody got anything that you want to talk about? I don't know if that was interesting or not. I can't even remember what I said. Really, I'm so cross that I can't find the photos.
that was absolutely fantastic, and I think everyone is inspired. I've got another one of the photos. I don't know.
That's one that I was looking for. Can anyone see that? Yeah, that is my group at base camp.
And that's Bronywn there.
Yeah, in the red jacket. Yeah, yep.
But I think
seriously.
So she got all the way to base camp, I think, didn't you, Bron? It was only coming back that you had to get evacuated.
Yes. So there's one. That's what. It's a bit glary. It's
Yeah.
just the most amazing sight to actually see it. The first time you see Everest, it's just amazing. And I can fully understand why people want to summit. I never want to do that ever in my life, but I can understand why people do want to summit, because I think it is that desire to, I suppose it's what pushed explorers, you know, to the other side of the world or whatever. But people just want to know what it's like. They just want to know what it's like. And that's really, I guess, what started me in my whole adventure. Was I just wanted to know. I just want to know what's around the corner. I just wanted to know what was up there. I just wanted to know what it was like. So yeah, it is an amazing thing to do.
So I've got a couple of questions for you.
Okay.
Going up the mountain with the diarrhea and feeling terrible and the altitude sickness.
Yes.
Did you have any kind of spiritual awakening or messages that came to you? Because I know in the things that I've been through in life, sometimes it's like, God, my body can't handle anymore. But there's something that gets sparked deep inside and you kind of have this realization or a spiritual awakening or some kind of wow moment. Did that happen for you?
It did. I remember days when I was really battling. I seriously had people with me. My brother walked with me for a while. My friend Ali Grenfell, who is incredibly spiritual, walked with me for a while. I think I had some of my spirit guides almost lift me at times. But this sense of, and often when I spoke to those people, they said, yeah, I remember you, you know, I remember being very conscious of you. We could have been the middle of the night in Australia, but it was that sort of sense of people being with me, not just the thoughts of people at home, but I seriously had people walking with me, you know, up the mountain. It was very, very clear. Other things that I've experienced, not so much in Nepal, certainly in Peru very recently, I had very, very clear pictures of the Amazon people going about. I had visions of little, what the New Age people call sigils, like little symbols, and then I'd see them at Machu Picchu. Very clear images of what they wore and some of the ceremonies that they had, not actually at Machu Picchu, but more when I was sitting in the jungle and just meditating. And other places, Morocco, when I was in Morocco, I've had two very clear, this is really woo-woo, sorry, really clear two past life experiences. I was very aware of two of my previous incarnations. One was as a woman who was a goat herder up in Tuja Gorge, and another one, I was very clear that, about the 15th, 16th century of being like a woman waiting for her man. I don't know if he was a pirate or a sailor, but walking the sea wall there. And it was just like this flooding of you know, just the knowledge of what it was like to live in that time. So I've had those sort of awakenings, but the ones in Nepal was more people that were just literally walking with me or almost carrying me. Yeah.
And I remember when I first met you, you were getting ready. Well, it was just before you were getting ready for Everest, and you were walking every day in what looked to me on photos like a freezing cold forest in Victoria.
Yeah, that'd be massive.
And I saw the pictures and I thought, why would anybody want to be any colder than what she is right now? What is wrong with this woman? And you were a shadow of the woman that you are today, and the experience has clearly changed you. And when I say a shadow, you'd achieved a lot already then, but the difference in who you became on that mountain, for me at least, was incredible. And it was just like you experienced a knowing.
Yes, yeah, it was. And I also think I truly found myself. I think there's something in a life-threatening challenge. There's something in having a goal from when you're 27 and achieving it, in my case, at 63. But even if you achieve it at 28, it doesn't matter. There's something about having a goal, a life goal, something that you've wanted to achieve for so long, and then achieving mastery. And again, like I keep saying, back to the business, whether it's, you know, some position you want to be in, whether it's X amount of money you want to make, whether it's leaving your day job and being able to, you know, retire yourself, whatever it is that you hear people talk about all the time, there's something to be said for having a goal and then achieving it. And there's nothing probably stronger, I don't think, to make you realize what you can achieve or what you can do or how amazing you are, for want of a better word, than achieving a life goal. It's just something that's so important, I think, to set goals, achieve them and celebrate them, because there's just no other feeling like it in the world. You know, and I love my children, and I love there's so many things in my life that I absolutely adore, but to be able to achieve something like that at that age, yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, it is amazing.
It's
and
extremely impressive. And I think, like, for me, I hate the cold, and I really don't enjoy mountain climbing, and there's probably some other people on the call that feel the same way, but I would hazard a guess that most people have kind of gone throughout this call and gone, oh, maybe what if I could hike Everest? That would be pretty cool. I think everybody's had a bit of that experience of, wow, what if this is? But what comes to mind is the fact that it's not even really about the goal. It's about the tenacity, the discipline, and what was required. Like you said, what do I need to do to get there? Can I have people around me that support me? What equipment do I need? And am I willing to ask for help along the way? And I think those, as life lessons, are incredibly important, because nobody does life alone.
No, exactly.
So we do it together, and it doesn't matter where you've come from or where you're going to, because like you illustrated with those 2 stories, which was a fantastic way to start a call. What you illustrated with those 2 stories is that life's what you make it. It's how you choose to see it, and it is really a choice. And I know that there's a lot of us, I'm going to say us because I've been there too, that have experienced the kinds of things you experienced in your marriage and have gone on to achieve great things. And for those that feel as though they haven't yet, I think this is a really opportune time to say, keep going, because that's what you did on the mountain, right? It didn't matter how adverse the situations were, the freezing cold, the lack of sleep, the diarrhea, the altitude sickness, the vomiting, you know, having to, I'm assuming, I don't even know where you pooed and weed, but I wouldn't have wanted to my bit in that
anywhere.
Weather. You know, all of that. But the key message is you kept going.
Yes. Yeah, and it's that's probably the greatest lesson that I've ever learned, and it's something that I always fall back on when I get stuck, when I get into a situation where I feel inadequate or that I just can't do it. I just think, excuse my language, fuck it, girlfriend, you can walk Everest, you can do this, and then I do. So I think we all remember at conference that marathon runner, and he said, find your Everest. I think it was him. What is your Everest? Find your Everest and conquer it. I mean, clearly that meant something huge to me, but it is something which someone said to me the other day, you know, Bron, what's your Everest at the moment? I said, a couple of men I've got to work out some stuff with. So Everest can be used as an analogy for anything, I think, because everybody knows what it is and how hard it is. It can be an analogy that you can use into any situation. You know, what is it? What is your challenge this year at the moment? Whatever it is, what is your Everest? And how you're going to get there? And how you get there is good training, good equipment, fabulous support, and that ability to reach out, like you said, Elizabeth, to reach out to other people for help, and just stop thinking you're the only person that's going to do this and you're the only one that can do it, because you're not and you aren't. And there are people around that can help you, but sometimes it takes you a while to find them and to find the information. Yep.
Yeah, and that's all part of the journey, right? That's part of the excitement of it. It's part of what makes it so inspiring, not just to others, but to yourself.
Yeah, to think that you've done it. Yeah.
And I don't want to finish yet, because I think that there's more within what you have, and I want to ask you a little bit more.
That's what it's like when you first set off on the trip. It's like walking on the fucking moon. Seriously, it's just shale. It's just gravel with these awesome mountains behind you. They're massive. Yeah, massive.
And see, I see that, and I can appreciate the beauty, but I don't want to do it. It's too cold. But I wonder if
base camp, if you can see that. That's base. See the orange type? That's base camp, with just, you know, hundreds and hundreds of prayer flags everywhere. Yep. Yeah. Sorry.
And I know there's a few people on here who don't know more about your story. So I wonder if you could currently tell us, what activities do you do every week?
Yeah.
Just so that people can get an idea of how to be inspired now.
Yeah.
And be more like you at age 63. Run us through your week of things that you go and do.
Okay. So I have a morning ritual, which is non-negotiable, which means I wake up, I meditate, and I walk every morning. Often we'll do a live from the cemetery for those of you that often follow me. So I usually walk, sometimes cycle, but I usually walk every morning. And really for me, walking is more like a meditation, not so much a fitness thing, it's a meditation thing. And then I have my Juice Plus and this awesome, massive green goddess smoothie thing with heaps of veggies. You know, we all talk about 33 fruit and veggies. I reckon I knock through 50 in a day. Seriously, I'm not joking. I'm fanatical about what I eat, and I'm fanatical about exercise. So I walk each morning. I do 3 bar classes, which are as in with the ballet bar, with weights. I do 3 dance classes a week. So I do a contemporary pole, with a pole, but contemporary ballet using the pole. I do a burlesque chair, exotic dance class a week. And I do an over 40s jazz class. I do a couple of weights classes, some yoga and some stretching as well, 2 or 3 stretching classes a week. I hike about once a month and I cycle some other time, whatever else. On top of that, I run 3 businesses. I've retired from, the normal 9 to 5 daily job. So Juice Plus is one of them. I run my business as a wellness coach. So I just use a combination of nursing and naturopathy and herbal medicine, reiki, seichim, massage, NLP, timeline therapy, and occasional card reading or doing someone's astrological chart. So somewhere in all that is what comes out in the consultation. And I also run 2 Airbnb businesses as well.
That's incredible. And I think, we all have 168 hours in a week, right? And you're maximizing yours.
Yeah.
Is there something that is inside you that makes you want, what is it that makes you want to maximize it?
I seriously am not joking. I love being alive. I love people. Sometimes I don't want to be with them, but I like people. And I seriously love watching people develop and becoming the best versions of themselves. I have a mission, as came out in timeline therapy, that to make the world a better place, one person at a time. And that is seriously why I believe I'm on this earth, and that's what my mission is. I'm also quite a feminist, and I'm also very, very environmentally aware. So I'll get stuck right into you, as Nikki knows. If you buy takeaway coffee cups or water in bottles or whatever, you'll get the wrath of Bron on your head. But I really want to improve the planet in every sense. And I seriously, without getting too environmentally fanatical, there's no planet B. We're in a time now in our existence where if we don't do something about this planet, when I was in Peru, the Amazon was burning. I didn't actually see it. I didn't even see any evidence of it because I think that was in Colombia. But to see that pristine forest and think that it's going down rapidly for the sake of McDonald's burgers is hideous to me. To think that there's mines going in Queensland that will destroy our Great Barrier Reef is hideous to me. Things like that I've seen as a child of the 60s, playing till dark and being able to walk and wander everywhere, to the sort of environment we're in now, that we're so protected. To make the world a better place, it's not just making people feel better, it's actually making the world a better place environmentally as well. Sorry, I got off onto a bit of a rant then.
I think that all of this is valid and you are speaking from your heart. And I think that's one thing. I know you've got an event coming up in Bendigo, and I'm assuming that eventually that's going to go online as well, called Find Your Voice. Yeah. And now that we've heard what your history is and where you've come from, I think that you running something called Find Your Voice is totally appropriate. And obviously people can connect with you on social media and find out more about that program from you.
Yeah. It's interesting. I actually rang Elizabeth today because, to be frank, I've got 3 people booked in. I went, I was going to be running it with somebody else, but she doesn't think it's worthwhile running it for 3 people. But I'm really conflicted there. And again, it goes back to the way I was brought up. And whatever it is that you commit to, you finish it. And that's the way I brought my kids up too. If you want to start netball, well, then you're finishing it at the end of the season. You're not deciding you don't want to do it anymore. You're finishing it unless you have an injury or whatever. But if you commit to something, you see it through and you finish it. So as I said to Elizabeth, my stupid committing to this and doing this event for 3 people. Thanks, Joel. Yeah, it's bullshit. You've just got to do it. And I didn't agree with this other person's decision. But anyway, with a few changes, I'm still going ahead, and I don't really care if there's 2 people or 2,002. As far as I'm concerned, if I can help 2 women find their voice, well, hell yeah, isn't that part of my mission? But,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's so
and they will be treated just as well. I'm still going to cater the lunch. They've still got their little gift bags that I've already made up. All that stuff will be exactly the same. There just won't be part of it that this other woman was going to do. Yep.
Perfect. And now for the question that we ask everyone.
Yes.
If there was a billboard and you could write anything on it and the whole world would see it, what would you put on your billboard?
There's no planet B.
There's no planet B.
I'd actually say there's no plan B, because then I guess it just takes in everything. It takes in yourself as well as the planet. So there's no plan B. There's no second chance. Live your life now.
That's awesome. Well done.
Okay.
Joel, can we stop